because you are clued in. I quote you all the time. I name drop you all the time because you are talking about consistently what major leaguers are doing now at the plate and pitching, where the war is being waged, tactical battles, a war of information as well. So I want to get right into this now. There's a thing called, you know that they're studying major league hitters' swing path and trying to match up pitches that will work against a swing path. Dig into that a little bit and tell us about swing path and tendencies of hitters and trying to examine that.
Yes, from an effective velocity perspective, let's start with just a speed scale. Let's go 1, 2, and 3. And when we talk about 1, the fastballs that is being thrown, I'll show you a graphic right here. If the fastball is being thrown in the up and in part of the strike zone, let's call that a 1. Then you have the fastball on the lower part, of the blue part, let's call that a 2. Then you have a 3, that's going to be a harder off speed, and a 4, let's call that a curveball, slow looping curveball. Why is that important? It's because if I tell you this swing right here, this graphic of a swing, what happens is players, what they do is they swing at the fastball away, yet they're able to hit 3 different speeds. Why? Because it's the same EV. Wherever they're placed, you see the outside fastball, the middle, harder off speed, and then you have another off speed that's a little bit slower, but it's inside. In the contact point, it's a little bit more ahead. So the player, the hitter, is getting 3 pitches for 1 because of the location.
It's just going to run into his bat.
It runs into their bat.
Right.
Why did I show you those graphics? It's because Major League Baseball as a whole, they're living in the 2 and 3 zone and those middle speeds. And when a hitter goes up to the plate thinking, I'm going to look for the middle away, I'm going to try to lift the ball, they have that nice path. The 2s and 3s work right into that cadence, right into that timing, right into that EV. Perfect case study is when we look at Luke Voit. Hit 17 home runs against right-handed pitching this year, and 15 of them were in that EV range, on that 2s and 3s. And you're like, wow, he had a monster year. But he just kept on gliding into that timing, that cadence, and pitchers kept on throwing over what we call the crossover pitches, right? Because they're the same timing, same EV. Monster season, nothing to take away, but this is what he does. He loads, and I'm geared up for the fastball away speed. Now, if you throw a harder off speed that ends up being in the middle of the plate, he crushes it. If it's away, he crushes it because that is his cadence. What happens if you elevate the fastball on Luke Voit? All of a sudden, he's not producing any type of damage. Right there, he's actually just whiffing or maybe fouling it off up there in the top of the zone 84% of the time. Why are we not pitching Luke Voit there? He just simply doesn't touch that.
Well, you do have to mix it up, though, right? I mean, you have to mix it up.
Yes.
Change his eye level, right?
But great point. You say, why don't we mix it up?
Right.
Correct. But Major League pitchers don't really do that. They utilize the outside fastball as the equalizer. That's where I go to, the outside fastball. That is a mistake. Why do they do that? Oh, we need to get more ground balls. Low outside fastball, more ground balls. Is that really more desirable? Ground balls? I don't think so, because we're asking the wrong question. It's like, how do we produce more ground balls? No. That's not the question. It's how do we avoid hard contact?
Right.
That should be the question.
That's mind-blowing to me, because we've kind of been taught the last few years. Josh Donaldson famously said it, on our air on MLB Network, saying ground ball. There's a name for ground balls. They're called outs. Except when you smoke it. When you hit it over 100 miles an hour, batting average is 440, slugging is 480.
Yes,
that's interesting.
By the way, Donaldson, if you took away his ground ball singles, now he's in the low 200s in batting average. I don't think he would say that, because if you hit the ball hard on the ground, those are pretty good numbers. Now, you compare that to weak hit fly balls, you see at the bottom right there, 95 miles per hour or less exit velocity. Look at that production. I want a fly ball.
So it's weak contact.
Weak contact is the goal, not ground balls.
Something else now. If you have a strong image in your head still, like while we're here, think of Blake Snell, why we were so outraged that he was taken out of that Game 6 in the World Series. It's because he had struck out the first 3 batters in the Dodgers order twice each. And there was something to the way he struck them out. It wasn't with stuff. It wasn't like they had bad ABs. He had them all messed up. So tell us, why were they so their timing was messed up, they were lunging, they looked bad. Why was that?
And effective velocity was tracking that. It's like, wow, he's hitting a lot of these check marks, right? The EV check marks. And what ends up happening is that he was going to the pressure zones, and I'll show you a graphic right here what happens when you go to the pressure zones, but making it look like they were right down the middle. They had a tunnel. Look, very simple. Right down the middle, you see right there on the strike zone, you see the batting average and the slugging percentage right there, strike home center. As soon as you get out to the perimeter, the gray area, they drop a little bit, but they're still hitting the ball pretty hard at 90 miles per hour exit velocities. But now you go to the pressure zones, BK, and look how it drops. Look at the blue zone.
Precipitously, yeah.
It just drops off the cliff. Now, you cannot do that and just isolate it and look at pitches in the vacuum. They have to work in an ecosystem.
Right.
It's called the EV ecosystem. And this is precisely what Snell was doing. He was able to set up strike pitches. Look at that pitch right there. He's going to hide everything off of that fastball. That slider right there down and in looked like it was going to go right to that spot. And that's precisely what he was doing.
That's Mookie Betts, a contact hitter, right? Like the best contact hitter, yeah.
But we do not have that type of capability that we can switch. That was a nasty at-bat. As a hitter, we can't just react halfway when the ball, and you have only tenths of a second to react. Look at this right here at bat. Fastball up. He's working off of that up fastball tunnel, and then he's able to throw those nasty pitches. And guess what? Because you don't have to be perfect. This is a simulation of Snell pitches right here. If you can see, they come out of the same tunnel. You see that curveball. This is baseball cloud working in conjunction with EV. Snell can go back and look at this and say, wait a second, you know what? That looked pretty good. I can actually hide all my pitches, go to different zones of the strike zone, giving the hitter different EVs and timing, and they all look the same. And by the way, you saw that curveball that pops up? He's like, man, maybe I should just lower that curveball and put it on the tunnel as well and use it as a pressure pitch. I could use it as a freeze pitch. This is the type of stuff that's available right now to pitchers. And I wish they used it more and got away from the old way of pitching. Fastball away, fastball away. You want to get rid of the wind? I want to get rid of that fastball away.
All right. I just want to explain, right, the one ball that is not in that little grouping is that pop on the curveball. And you've told me this before. As a hitter, there's very few things you can recognize that quickly. But if a guy has a pop, a little curve, a little hump on that curveball, you will instantly recognize, boom, curveball, swing, or lay off, wherever you're going to go with the curveball.
Absolutely. See, the thing is this. We do not pick up spin that well. I don't care what no one says. You know, we're not going to see, oh, there's a dot there. I think the slider's going to break.
Right.
We don't have time for that.
Right.
But we are immediately alerted if there is a change of plane, meaning that there's no tunneling.
Right.
Immediately, it's like, well, that's out of the tunnel. Immediately, you just get alerted, and we are athletes. We can see that. You know, and that's the type of stuff that I had when I played. You know, I had a very...
You used as a hitter?
As a hitter. Yeah. Small period of time when I was fortunate enough to be able to work with Effective Velocity and Perry Husband. And this is just a month. And this is what I did with very just high-end strategic plans per pitcher. They were broken down. I had a tunnel. I had a shape to look at. And guess what? I also had an effective velocity, a timing of how I had to get ready earlier for some guys, a little bit slower from others. And I would dance to that cadence, dance to that rhythm and tune. Look at those numbers. I was getting healthy hacks on the baseball consistently. And what you see there is this. My batting average, actually, I had an exit velocity that was actually a lot higher, or a hard hit rate, a lot higher than my batting average. So I even ran into a lot of tough luck. But it was 100 points higher.
If only we had ex-Woba in 2009.
Yes.
Well, what happened on September 8th then? Did you fall out of
Sissy Sabathia happened. He broke my hand with a sinker up and in. That was painful.
This was good stuff. We're going to do this through the year. This was
we should.
Right, and then we'll have like live examples from the day before, from the week before we can examine.
What are we going to call it?
Great stuff. We'll come up with something.